So we're in Clovis, California. We're taking a look back here for a gas leak. We checked out front. There was a leak in the ball valve connection to one of the nipples. So we tightened that up, took it apart, tightened it up, got it going. Looks pretty good now. If you can hear the hissing noise right now, hopefully you can when I'm not talking. And then you can see the blue on that 90-degree fitting right there. That is it's a 3/4 pipe, 3/4 by half bushing. I'll try and zoom in. Might get grainy or fumbly, but right there, 3/4 by half galvanized bushing, and then 1/2 inch over to one of your log ladder valves. And so to get back there, you know, you got to break apart the union right there, get this unscrewed. It's kind of a chore. I'm not a fan of the way they plumbed this. They put it in an isolated little capsule and then capped it off with the counter, and there's no way to maintain it. You can't get in here. So, but that's where the leak's at. So we're gonna go ahead and take it apart, put it back together, and hopefully get the leak to stop, and then we'll air test it again after that. So we're still out in Clovis, California, and after multiple air tests and squirting as much of the piping as we can, you know, we found the leak out front at the main and snap ball valve. Took it apart, tightened it down, so that's not leaking now. No reason really to replace the ball valve because it's working. Packing, that's leaking a little bit, so we'll have to maintain that, check that, or just replace the valve, no big deal. Underneath here, I've already taken the light out. We got multiple leaks. I took the first video, showed you 1/2 by 3/4 bushing, galvanized bushing that's spitting real bad, and it runs over to this first log ladder trim, log ladder valve right here. The second one further down, it's leaking as well. Same 3/4 by half, that's leaking. Additionally, your little quick connect, and I apologize that I took the light out already, but right back there you see the little brass stub out. Of course, you got this long gray hose. That's what you have on most portable barbecues. It's just a little quick connect, and that little brass fitting there on the backside where it's screwed in, it's leaking as well. So you've got multiple leaks. We can't get to them because it's in a cavity that doesn't allow us access. It was all plumbed and hard piped. I'm going to go out on a limb and say I'm almost 99% certain that when this top was off, they just hopped in there and piped it all together, and then they put the top on. But it never got air tested. I can tell you it didn't because of all these leaks. It's blatantly leaking, big hissing, you know, lots of air coming through. You don't miss that when you've tested, you know, when you've tested a gas line with air pressure, which kind of leads me to believe also none of this was inspected. So anyways, those are the 3 leaks we got identified just crawling back there and squirting. And then of course you got to take your hand and rub around each fitting and feel for leaking, as well as listening. Also, you're missing a valve. This is hard pipe. That little quick connect, the shutoff for this is it's a garage wall. So if you go over there to the side and walk up to the garage down the side yard, the main shutoff, the 1.5-inch valve, that's what shuts this off. That's not code. This supply line needs to be within 6 feet. So you can see that little hose. It might be a 6-foot or an 8-foot hose, but there needs to be a valve put on first, a hard shutoff valve accessible. Same thing with these log ladder valves. Honestly, I would have taken the valves and put them, you know, just regular shutoff valves right here so you can access it. There's no reason not to, because there's nothing here that prohibits you, and there's like a shelf, there's not like a mini fridge, you know, it's just an open space. But they put the valves and buried them right there. So I'm not trying to put anybody down, but you need access to the shutoff valve. That's fine, but they're supposed to be within 6 feet of the fire pit. Fire pit over there, which is about 12 feet away. That one around the building, you know, over there in the center, you know, I'm sure it's got to go underneath and around, so you're probably 30 feet till you get over there, and it's controlled from here. And that's fine, you know, if that's you know, if that's acceptable to the city of Clovis, no problem for me. But you can't work on it. It's just too hard to work on, you know. The top has to come off. We can't do anything without this top being taken off. If you want to go through your general contractor that helped you back here, have them pop this top off and do the plumbing. We're not opposed to that. We're just documenting what we found so that you know what you need to replace we'll put those covers partially back on. We're not going to screw them all the way back on because we might have to take them off again, and then the keys right there. We're going to leave this disconnected. You can't use it. You can't get that's such a bad gas leak. You'll have a big explosion back here if you try and use it. And then in the front, we can't tie you back together because the only way when you're done to make sure that you don't have further leaks is you've got to do an air test again. So you can't tie that back together out front. So anyways, that's it out here, and we are done. So still in Clovis, California. Last thing before we go, we've got multiple videos that we're going to compile, put together into one. And so what we've got out front, we were told these are anodeless risers. And from the contractor, we can't see the markings, and we can't see any sweeping. Normally it starts to sweep right away. These look more like transition fittings that go straight down and then connect, but I can't tell. Tracer wires on, so that's fine. Valve is leaking. It was leaking here. We took it apart, tightened it back down. It's good. But packing nuts leaking. We might try and just tighten that down, but honestly, we got to take this all apart, to get the 90s back on, get the valve back on. Unions down here, so it's kind of going to be a tight fit. So we might just put a new valve on there anyway. So that's out front. And then we were told they used the poly pipe, the yellow rolled pipe. Probably got it right from Clovis Polycon, and that's fine. That's good material. The problem we're having back here is those risers are only 36 inches tall, and 6 inches needs to be out of soil, which means you have 30 inches to work with. That's all. And so from soil, that's supposed to be 24 inches deep. So that pipe 24 inches deep, and then the end of the pipe would mean you could bury it about this far, okay? And then the other 6 inches would be where you would tie into your galvanized iron piping, and I'll show you that in a minute. Unfortunately, as you can see, I'm down here, and you've got another foot to the ledge here, and the pipe is buried, okay? We put a little soapy, and this is non-corrosive, by the way. We don't use soap and water. This is the, the $10 a jug, solution for gas leaks. We sprayed it right there because your pipe is currently corroding. So they came up. I don't know if that's just a 90 right on top of the riser, whether it's anodeless or whether it's a straight transition fitting, whether there's a galvanized coupling in the ground and then a nipple and then the 90. I don't know what's down there. And all I know is this isn't code. Iron pipe needs to be 6 inches above the ground, which means either 6 inches above these rocks, or it would be nice is 6 inches above the concrete, but definitely not buried in the soil. So it's currently corroding right there. So at some point you're gonna have a gas leak, or at some point you're gonna have water in the line, and once that water fills up the line, no gas will come through anymore anyways, because you've trapped it right there in that riser. So lots of work to be done. You've got that riser, everything over here needs to be replaced. I highly doubt any of this was inspected, and the reason I say that is because it's not installed correctly. We don't have a shutoff valve, and I already talked about this. A shutoff valve over at the barbecue area. There's no shutoff valve for the barbecue. It's just an 1.5 inch line with a quick connect, and that's it. You got log ladder valves that are further than 6 feet away from the two fire pits. So on and on. And again, I'm a plumbing contractor, so I don't like to say anything negative about really any of the other trades, especially another plumber. But they didn't test this line. They didn't install it per code, and they did not air test it because the leaking was so bad. There's no way that you could pump up a gauge. We could sit there and watch the gauge just go down. With 15 pounds in it, it's 10 pound test for 15 minutes, and we pumped it up and watched it go 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, all the way down to 0. So we're gonna leave it like that. We've already talked to the homeowner. And of course, he's going to get with his contractor and see what they can do to work this out. Outside of that, we are done.